Solve the following pair of simultaneous equations. Notice that we have that y is equal to 3 over 2x, and the next equation is 3x plus 2y plus 4 equals to 0. And so what we have here is we're going to label this equation 1, and we're going to label this equation 2. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to substitute equation 1 into equation 2 and then solve for x. Notice that we have equation 1 here. Equation 1, y is already the subject of the equation. So we already have what y is explicitly. And so since we already know what y is, all we need to do is take what y is and substitute it into equation 2, right? And then once we do that, then we could solve for x, right? And so that's the plan. So we take, this is equation 2. Notice that we have y here. We have two variables. But once we substitute what we know what y is, then we could just have an equation in one variable and we could solve that, right? And so we know that y is equal to 3 over 2x. And so let's substitute that into this equation. So instead of writing y, we write 3 over 2x because that's what y is according to equation 1. And so we have 3x plus 2, open bracket, 3 over 2x is equal to 0. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to cancel this 2 with this 2. And so we are left with 3x. And so we have 3x, and we already had this 3x here. So we have 3x plus 4 is equal to 0. Next, what is 3x plus 3x? Well, 3x plus 3x is definitely 6x. And so again, 3x plus 3x is 6x. But what happened to the positive 4? Well, we sent it over the equal sign. All right. And so when we sent it over the equal sign, what actually ended up happening is this became a negative 4. And so what we had, when we send this over the equal sign, this is a negative 4. And so that's why we have negative 4. But what ended up happening with the 0? Notice that when we send this over the equal sign, it became, when we send the positive 4 over the equal sign, it became 0 plus negative 4. And so, well, let me just show you. So let me actually do it. And so what we have here is we have 3x plus 3x, which is 6x. And so you see 6x here. And then this is going to be equal to, when we send the positive 4 over, this is 0 minus 4. All right. So we have positive 4, we send it over, it's 0 minus 4. But what is 0 minus 4? Well, 0 minus 4 is just minus 4. And so what we actually have is just 6x is equal to negative 4. All right. And so that's what we have right there. 6x is equal to negative 4. All right. And that's how we got this line right there. All right. 6x is equal to negative 4. And so I thought I should show you how we got that line. All right. So what we have here, so 3x plus 3x is 6x. Remember, we send the positive 4 over the equal sign. Let me show that. When we send it over, we just are eventually just going to be left with a negative 4 because 0 plus negative 4 is still negative 4. And so we have 6x is equal to negative 4. What we're going to do here is we're going to divide both sides of this equation by 6. And so this 6 cancels with this 6. We get that x is equal to negative 4 divided by 6. And what we have here is, well, what we did to this fraction is we just reduce it or write it in lowest terms. How do we do that? Well, we can go into 4 and 6. Well, you could use 2, right? And so we have 6 divided by 2, and 6 divided by 2 is definitely 3. And we have negative 4 divided by 2, and negative 4 divided by 2 is simply negative 2. So we have that x is equal to negative 2 over 3. Now you can divide this and say negative 2 divided by 3, but that's going to give you a long decimal, a long repeating decimal, because negative 2 divided by 3 is, if you divide it, you'll get negative 0.66666 and continuing. We don't want to write that long decimal, so we just leave it as a fraction. And so that's why I leave it as a fraction here. But if we had like a decimal, like if we had a decimal that is a term, and if we had a decimal that has like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 numbers behind the decimal point and it's not very long, then we would have, take this fraction and actually divide the two numbers. But since it's a very long decimal and it continues on and on, we just leave our answer as a fraction. All right. So if you get a whole number or a decimal that is not very long, then you could write the decimal version of this fraction. But since the decimal version of this fraction is extremely long, we just leave it at our answer as a fraction. And so we have that x is equal to -2/3. Now we need to figure out what is y. And so in order to figure out what is y, what is the value of y, we're going to take x, which is equal to -2/3, and we're going to substitute it into equation 1, not equation 2. We're going to substitute it into equation 1. I know I have here substituted into equation 2, but no, we're going to substitute it into equation 1. All right, so it's equation 1. And then we're going to solve for y. And so we have y is equal to 3/2x, but remember that x is equal to -2/3, so let's substitute that in. And so we have 3/2 multiplied by -2/3. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply 3 times -2, which gives us -6. We multiply 2 times 3, which gives us +6. And so we do -6 divided by 6, and that gives us -1. So y is equal to -1 and x is equal to -2/3. And that's our answer. X is equal to -2/3 and y is equal to -1. And that's the answer to the simultaneous equation.